Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to use the Blackmagic Intensity USB encoder together with the standard video conferencing camera, which is the Cisco C20 camera. This is a 4-zoom camera which comes, it's one of the options, which comes with the C20 codec, which is a rather old codec sitting right here. So let's review the setup first. We basically have the camera and the HDMI output of the camera, which is this cable right here, goes into the input of the HDMI splitter, which basically makes two replicas of the same stream. So one of them we are sending back. This is this cable right here, and it goes all the way back to the C20 codec. So we're basically sending the signal from the camera where it should go, which is the codec. Obviously from the codec we also have the control cable, which is this cable right here, which allows us to position the camera. We can use the pan, tilt, zoom presets on the codec. Let's get back to the HDMI splitter. So the other output, the other replica of the stream, gets fed into the Blackmagic encoder, which then through this USB 3.0 connector feeds into this laptop here. So it's important to notice that I set it manually to HD 720p 50 since we're in Europe, and this is the Blackmagic configuration utility right here. And the other important thing is that I also manually set the camera so that it's compatible with the 720p resolution. If you look here at the bottom of the camera, there's little dip switches. So what I basically did is I hard-coded a 00111 setting, which translates into 720p 50 frames per second manual setting. So it's not set to the auto setting, rather it had been switched by the dip switches into 720p resolution and 50 frames per second. So this corresponds to the setting I just showed you. And let me close this window right here, and if everything went good, if you go to your settings window here in the Webex, you should be able to see the camera here. So I'm just gonna hit the camera button here in the Webex, and what I'm also gonna make sure is that this PC is always the video feed is always logged onto this PC. So let's make sure it's us who's transmitting all the time. Now let's play around with the camera a bit now. So basically you see, I can see a self-view on the LCD screen. I can move around the camera, so hopefully you can see that down there in the lower right corner, and obviously that gets also displayed in the Webex window. Now if I move to the other laptop here, which is basically a Webex participant, so between these two laptops, the laptop on the left and the laptop on the right, I have a Webex session running. I can switch this video to the full screen, okay, and use the remote controller of the camera once again to move around with the camera. I can zoom in. This is only a 4-zoom camera, 4 times zoom, so if I had the 12-zoom camera it would have been much greater experience. Well, anyway, I think it's a very decent quality, and what's nice about this is that you can actually use the camera presets. So if I had this camera in a lecture room with many presets which I regularly use, I could pretty much use those for my Webex meetings. Now also the C20 has got a data sharing VGA cable, which is this guy right here, which feeds all the way to the C20 codec right there. So if I hit the presentation button here on the remote, I basically get my Webex displayed right here on the LCD screen. So I'm basically using the C20 codec to feed the VGA output of the laptop normally, and since the laptop is in Webex, I get to see that video. So let me share my desktop here for a second to make it as real as possible. So yeah, let me just share my desktop. So here's my desktop. I'm running a Webex session. Obviously that gets displayed in the local room which I'm sitting in, and via the C20 codec, and I'm using the C20 codec to feed into the Webex. So here's the Webex video, and if I move on to the other laptop here on the right, you see it gets the video. Now what I could also do is I could also call some other endpoint here. So if I were to call one of the endpoints here, I would also run a parallel Webex and video conferencing session. The only thing which doesn't quite work is the audio portion. So I wasn't able to come up with a complete solution as of yet. So as of now, if you want to do that, that is, if you want to run parallel sessions, if you want to run video conference in parallel to the Webex session, you would need to make sure you've got two microphones. One of them is the video conferencing microphone, so that people in the video conferencing world could hear you, and the other microphone you would talk to would be some external microphone you would need to hook up to this laptop, so that people in the Webex world can also hear you. Now, if someone from the Webex world asks a question, obviously it's going to get, you're going to be able to hear it via the speakers of this first laptop here. So what you could possibly do is you could use the audio cable here as well, and feed it into the speakers output of the laptop, so that you could basically hear the Webex participants directly onto out of your LCD speakers, which are mounted there behind the screen. So that way your experience would be pretty good, but as I said, you would need to still provide for the two microphones here. And the other downturn with respect to running a parallel meeting of video conferencing and Webex would be that the Webex participants here obviously would be able to see the active participant, which is either the video camera feed from the C20 codec camera, or the other active participants. Unfortunately, it doesn't work the other way around. So basically, if you had someone on the other end, some other video conferencing unit, which would become the active speaker from the video conferencing point of view, that feed would not get propagated into the Webex, since we're just sending our local video here. So it's not really a bridge solution per se, but at least it gives you some good choice of using a rather high quality video conferencing camera for your Webex sessions. So if you have a meeting room which you regularly use for video conferencing sessions, and you would like to use the same room for your Webex meetings, let's say you need to give a lecture on a topic, so you're the only active participant, really you wanna pretty much lock the video onto yourself so that no one else becomes the active speaker in Webex and hijacks your video feed anyway. It shouldn't be a limitation then. So in which case you can use the high quality camera and use all the presets of the camera which you regularly use, and also get the session displayed here onto the onto the LCD screen of your web conferencing solution. So this is pretty much what I was going to show you, and this concludes the video.